The streets of Maplewood City glittered under a pale winter sun. Frost clung to windows and pedestrians hurried with scarves pulled up to their chins. On the corner of a quiet street stood a small cafe, the Hearth, its windows glowing warmly against the cold. Inside, the smell of fresh bread and cinnamon wrapped around customers like a blanket. Behind the counter, Ethan Miller, a 34-year-old chef and single father, moved with the practiced rhythm of a man who had built his life from scratch. Ethan wasn't wealthy, but he was rich in determination. After losing his wife 3 years earlier, he had poured everything into raising his daughter Lily and keeping his cafe alive. People came from across the neighborhood for his soups, pies, and especially the dishes he created from family recipes. That morning, Lily sat at a corner table with crayons, occasionally calling, "Daddy, look," as she drew. Ethan glanced up smiling before returning to kneading dough. The cafe was alive with chatter until the door swung open. A woman stepped inside, clutching a crying baby. Heads turned. She was Isabella Hart, known across the city as the Ice Queen of business. The billionaire CEO of Hart Global, she was always seen in designer suits, commanding boardrooms with an iron voice. But here in this little cafe, she looked fragile. Her baby, Amelia, screamed inconsolably in her arms. Isabella's eyes darted nervously at the staring customers. She whispered, "Shh, baby, please." Her usual poise was gone, replaced with exhaustion and desperation. From behind the counter, Ethan paused. His instincts as both a chef and a father kicked in. Wiping his hands, he walked over. "Excuse me," he said gently. "May I help?" Isabella stiffened. "No, I can handle it," but Amelia's cries only grew louder. Ethan crouched down, his voice soothing. "I've been here before. Let me try." Hesitant, Isabella finally allowed him to take Amelia. To her shock, the baby quieted almost instantly against Ethan's chest. He bounced her gently, whispering nonsense words only babies seem to understand. Isabella's eyes widened. How did you do that?" Ethan smiled softly. "Single dad secret, but I think she's hungry too. May I make her something?" Isabella followed Ethan into the kitchen, still wary. "She only takes formula," she said quickly. Ethan shook his head kindly. Sometimes their stomachs just need something warmer, simpler. He tied his apron and began gathering ingredients. Carrots, rice, a touch of ginger. The kitchen filled with comforting aromas as he worked with practiced hands. Isabella watched, torn between skepticism and curiosity. Within minutes, Ethan sat with Amelia on his lap, feeding her small spoonfuls of warm porridge. To Isabella's amazement, Amelia ate eagerly, then let out a soft giggle. It was the first time she had smiled in weeks. Isabella blinked back tears. "She's happy. She never eats this easily." Ethan looked at her gently. "Babies can feel when food is made with love. That's what my wife used to say." The word wife hung in the air. Isabella glanced at him, noticing for the first time the weariness in his eyes, the story behind his quiet strength. After Amelia finished, Ethan offered Isabella coffee on the house. They sat at a small table while Lily joined them, proudly showing Isabella her drawing of a princess with pancakes. Isabella smiled. Though she rarely did, for the first time in years, someone had cut through her armor, not with wealth or power, but with kindness. Over the next weeks, Isabella returned often. Sometimes she brought Amelia, sometimes she came alone, claiming it was just for the soup. But the truth was, she felt drawn to Ethan's little cafe, to the warmth, the laughter, the simplicity. She told him things she never admitted to anyone, how she had built her empire but lost her peace, how she feared she wasn't a good mother, how loneliness haunted her even in her penthouse. Ethan listened without judgment. He shared stories of Lily, of sleepless nights after his wife's passing, of struggling to keep the cafe alive. One snowy afternoon, Isabella confessed, "You don't know what it's like, to have everything yet feel empty." Ethan looked into her eyes. "I know exactly what it's like, because I had everything once too, and then I lost it. But sitting here with you, I don't feel empty anymore." The words startled them both, but their growing closeness didn't go unnoticed. Isabella's business partners whispered when she began spending time at a small cafe. Paparazzi snapped photos of the billionaire with the humble chef. Headlines mocked, "Ice Queen seen with small-town cook." When Isabella's board confronted her, she stood firm. He's not just a cook. He's the man who reminded me what matters. But Ethan, reading the tabloids, worried. You don't need me dragging your name down, he told her one night as they cleaned up after closing. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. Don't you see? You're the only person who's lifted me up. And then, for the first time, they kissed. Months passed. Their bond deepened. Ethan's recipe for Amelia became famous when Isabella insisted he share it. Soon the hearth was crowded not just with neighbors but with families from across the city. Parents whispered, "That's the cafe with the baby food that works miracles." But more than money or fame, something greater blossomed, a new family. One spring evening, Isabella sat in the cafe with Amelia asleep in her stroller and Lily drawing at the counter. Ethan brought out a dish, roasted chicken with herbs, his late wife's signature recipe. "This was the first meal she ever cooked for me," Ethan said softly. "She told me food is love you can taste. I didn't understand it then, but I do now." Isabella took one bite. Tears welled in her eyes. Not because of the flavor alone, but because of what it represented. Healing, hope, and the home she had never known she needed. She reached for his hand. "Ethan, you've given me more than a recipe. You've given me a family. I don't care about boardrooms or headlines anymore. I just care about us." Ethan squeezed her hand. "Then let's build this life together, and one meal, one laugh, one memory at a time." In that little cafe on Maplewood Street, surrounded by the scent of warm bread and the sound of children's laughter, a single dad chef and a billionaire mom discovered the greatest recipe of all: love. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories.